Welcome to Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this special edition of Just a Minute from the BBC Television Centre. This year, Just a Minute will reach its 45th birthday. And to celebrate those many years of radio success, we have taken over your television screens. So without further ado, please welcome to the show those four talented and exceptional show business personalities. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Shappi Khorsandi, and seated on my left, Julian, Clary and Stephen Fry. Please welcome all four of them. The pairs will try to speak for just a minute on the subject that I give them, and they must try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. The other three panellists can challenge at any time they wish, and if I uphold that challenge, they gain a point. If not, the person speaking gains a point and continues to speak on the subject. And by the way, they can repeat the subject on the card. Paul, the subject here is excuses for being late. You have 60 seconds as usual, Paul, and your time starts now.
Perhaps one of the best excuses for being late is being late. If you are dead, you can't be expected to keep appointments. Other excuses which are wonderful are to refer to outside phenomena. God at my homework, you might say, on the way to theological college. Or indeed, the tsunami was so great coming down Streatham High Street.
Stephen, you're challenged.
I was a repetition of great.
Yes, probably. I don't listen to what I'm saying. It's hard enough coming out with it in the first place.
So, Stephen, you have a correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. You take over the subject. There are 40 seconds available, and the time starts now.
I suppose the disrepair of some sort of horological device like a watch or chronometer would be a reasonable excuse for being late. It stopped, it was retarded in some fashion, and I wasn't able to tell the time and thought that I was being punctual. As a matter of fact, I was horrifically late, and I'm embarrassed and ashamed. It's not an excuse, it's a reason. And sometimes the two are confused. An excuse is...
hello. Paul challenged.
Oh, there was a tiny hesitation.
Yeah. There was a definite hesitation,
Definitely.
Yes. He stumbled over the words, so we call that hesitation. So, Paul, you get a point for that. Correct challenge. 18 seconds are still available, and your time starts now.
There was a boy at school who specialised in being late virtually every day of the week, and he had the most fantastic reasons for his poor timekeeping. Excuse me, sir, I got my foot caught in a drain. There was an explosion at the gasometers and I was helping police with casualties. These were genuinely things that he would come in and say.
Well, as I said before, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it's Paul Merton, so he's taken the lead at the end of the first round. And who's going to begin the next round? Oh, Shappi. Yes, a lovely subject. The moon. Tell us something about the moon in just a minute, starting now.
When I was a little girl at school, they told us that the moon was made of cheese. This is more of a comment on my education than the actual moon itself. It's not made of that substance at all. I've always suspected it's made.
And Julian's challenge.
Repetition of made.
Yes, made.
Yes. Does it count that if the second time in my head I misspelt it?
No, darling, we can't stretch it as far as that. So, Julian, you have a correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. And you have the subject of the moon, and there are 45 seconds available, starting now.
Those of us who are rustic people, of course, know that the moon lights up the sky and makes everything absolutely gorgeous. In the city, you don't really see it. There are street lights. You may peer up towards the sky and see something vaguely yellowish. However, if you...
Stephen
There were
challenge.
two C's in there.
Yes, you see there.
I feel such a bully and I don't want to.
I understand.
Oh, thank you.
You can't help it.
No, Stephen, those are the rules of the game.
You're right, you're right.
That's fine. And you've got a correct challenge, another point, and you have 32 seconds starting now.
La Luna. It's often considered a symbol of femininity. The silvery reflective quality has in mythology and symbology for many years been seen as somehow...
Julian challenge.
Is there a word like... I'm sure there is. Symbology.
Yes, there is. I'm afraid it became... I'm afraid it became awfully popular with that dreadful Dan Brown book because the character that Tom Hanks played in the film was actually a symbologist. That was his profession.
Yes, just a yes will do.
Oh, sorry.
I'll use it now.
So, Julian, at last, but we did enjoy hearing from you, and we loved the interruption, but Stephen was interrupted. He gets a point for an incorrect challenge, and he keeps the subject. 21 seconds available, starting now.
In the magnificent extended poem by John Keats, Endymion, the moon falls in love with this beautiful youth who lies naked and the silvery light is cast upon him.
Shappi challenge.
I think you said silvery
Do you know I
before.
did?
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did. Well, listen, Shappi.
Silvery moon.
Shappi, you have a correct challenge. You have a point for that, of course. There are 11 seconds, and you take over the subject of the moon, starting now.
By the light of the silvery moon, I want to spoon, with my honey I croon love's tune, which is a song that we learnt at school.
And Stephen challenge.
Well, in her first little speech, she told us that at school she was
It
told
was a
to-
different school.
No, it doesn't matter. No, Shappi, I think you've justified it. And I'm glad you have. Because there's only half a second to go. And it would be very unfair to take it away from you at that particular moment.
Agree.
So it was an incorrect challenge. You get a point for that. And you've got the moon. And whichever school you went to, whichever half a second, starting now.
The moon on a stick?
So Shappi Khorsandi was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and the situation is that she's now equal in the lead with Stephen Fry. The other two are just behind. Wow. There's very little difference in the points, and Julian, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is, the front row of this audience.
Lord.
They're all sort of straightening themselves up now and twitching a bit. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Now, when I look at the front row of this audience, the word casual springs to mind. There is a woman over there wearing burgundy corduroy trousers, which, frankly, is a mistake. And I can't see anyone amongst you who has seen an iron in the last week. Can I say the word shampoo, madam? And you, with the curly hair, is your hair naturally that way?
Stephen, you've challenged.
2 hairs, curly hair is your hair.
Yes,
sorry.
2 hairs.
I'm loath to take over the subject, but nonetheless, I do my best.
Well, we've had some of Julian's comments. Let's hear yours on the front row of the audience. And 39 seconds still available, Stephen, starting now.
Do you know, when I took my seat, I thought, have I arrived at a beauty pageant? And are these the contestants lined up before me? It's a marvellous mixture. They're very keen. They're the first to have got here, presumably. They queued up a long time ago, and that's why they're in such a state, because the weather isn't very good outside.
Julian, you've challenged.
Well, we had 2 theys and 2 theirs.
Yes, we
Swift
did.
Wow.
succession.
Wow, tough challenge, but correct.
Yeah.
Well, pardon me, symbology.
No, symbology.
Symbology is it?
So, you have a symbolic challenge there, and you have the subject back again, Julian, and we'd love to hear more from you on the front row of the audience. 24 seconds available, starting now.
You've all perked up somewhat, but can I say the word posture to these 2 at the front? Are you members of a boy band that we ought to know about? And you, are you going out with anybody that we need to know? I don't have time to pause for the answer.
Stephen challenge
2
again.
needs to know there, I'm
2
afraid.
needs to know, yes. Stephen, you've got him with 11 seconds to go on the front row of the audience, and your time starts now.
The colours range from pastel to deep viridian green there. I see a brown, I see a rather pleasant... I see
yes.
too many things, don't I?
Julian, you challenge first. You
Repetition of C.
I see.
It's a
yes.
sea of colour.
A sea of colour. The front row of the audience is still the subject, and there are 6 seconds available with Julian starting now.
Do you worry about your head? Because you needn't.
Sorry, I thought he was going to say hair. Deviation, he didn't say hair.
Can I say everyone on the front row's turned purple?
No. But they're also crossing the hands like this. Right. So it was an incorrect challenge,
it
yes?
was an incorrect
So, Julian,
challenge,
another
absolutely.
point to you. 4 seconds are still available. The front row of this audience, starting now.
You do have a lovely head of skin, if I may say so. And between you and me and the gatepost...
Right. So Julian Clary was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and he's in the lead now with Stephen Fry, and the other two are only 1 or 2 points behind. And Stephen, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, the subject, you might have some knowledge on this. Writer's block. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Well, sometimes the words simply don't come. There's a sort of verbal constipation that afflicts authors of all kinds, poets, playwrights, novelists. It's a terrible condition because sometimes they have achieved a huge amount in their chosen profession and are expected to produce all kinds of work each year, and then nothing. I lived in an apartment block which was J. McInerney's and Timberlaker Worton Bakers and
Julian,
such an odd
challenge.
name, isn't it? It was a hesitation, I think.
Yes, it was
It
indeed.
was a hesitation.
Yes.
Julian, you've got in again with 33 seconds to go on writer's block, starting now.
I had writer's block once and I invested in an enema which shifted it very, very quickly. The words flowed freely.
And Paul challenge.
What flowed freely? I've read one of his books, he's right.
The words.
Oh, the words! Oh, the words, I do beg your pardon.
Which one have you read?
It's probably the one called Murder Most Fad.
Thank you.
That was a lucky
remember
guess,
the
wasn't it?
Or give him a point.
Well, the audience did enjoy your interruption, so we
Yes.
give you a bonus point for
thanks
that.
very much.
Right. But Julian, you were interrupted,
he was, yeah.
so you get a point for that, and you still have 27 seconds. Tell us something about writer's block, starting now.
Writer's block is terribly frustrating. It's like looking at a blank page and nothing is swimming before you. Eventually, you may wander into the garden, look around at the trees, and perhaps the birds singing will inspire you. And that thrush will wave its way down to the...
Paul, you challenged.
Hesitation.
It was a hesitation. Yes, he was keeping going magnificently, but there are still 10 seconds available, and it's with you, Paul Merton. The writer's block starting now.
Writer's block, or a desk if you prefer. An object you need to lean on, drawers with pencils inside, perhaps an eraser, and then issues of paper in front of you.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and the situation is that Julian's now in the lead. Oh, he's 2 points ahead of Stephen, 3 or 4 ahead of Paul and Shappi. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. Oh, the subject, this is a fascinating one. My robot butler. 60 seconds starting now.
My robot butler's a marvellous invention. He gets me up at 6:30 in the morning, does a few logarithms, presses my trousers, and then breakfast is served. He's called Boris, and he's based on the Mayor of London. He walks in, a wonderful creature. I can hear his wheels going across the wooden floorboard. His metallic voice croaks out to me, "Good morning, sir. How'd you like a boiled egg?" And I say to him, of course, perhaps even 2 of those delicious chicken products would be great. How would you like it done? I would like it...
Julian challenge.
2 likes.
There's 2 people talking. The robot's saying one thing, I'm saying the other. I can't control the robot.
No, you deserve a round of applause for that, but Julian, your challenge.
2 likes.
2 likes, yes,
Like,
no, yes, right. So, Julian, you got in again with 30 seconds to go. My robot butler, starting now.
My robot butler is called
Paul challenge.
Was that robot baba? It sounded like that. Did it sound like the you, Nicholas?
It did sound like that to me, but I think he really got enough clarity to know
enough
what he was...
clarity, did he?
Yes.
OK.
So, Julian, the benefit of the doubt, and if I can redress the balance sometime later, Paul,
Yeah.
I'll give it back to you. You have 29 seconds. Robot butler, starting now.
She looks gorgeous in dungarees and her hair is just about shoulder length, which is what I like. She's based on Abby Titmus, for whom I've got an inkling that I've been a fan for many, many...
Well, lying for a start, but also... big fan of... repetition.
Yes, many,
Yeah,
right.
many.
So, Paul, you got in, and we're back with you on the robot butler, and you have 17 seconds starting now.
I've got a robot butler, and what he does... What happened? Who buzzed then? Who buzzed then?
Shappi buzzed. Come
I
on, Shappi.
buzzed. I'm not sure if what you said was...
I said what Julian said. This is where I get the benefit of the doubt.
No, Julian just was... Yours
Yeah.
was...
That's repetition.
I know it is.
There's a lot of
Repetition.
babas.
Yeah, with too many bubbers.
Too many
With
bubbers.
far too many bubbers. Shappi, you've got a correct challenge. You're at 16 seconds. My robot butler starting now.
I wish I had a robot butler. I would polish him all day long. Because just because you are not the...
Because I'm
Because,
afraid.
yes.
There was hesitation. I stammered as well. There was all sorts of stuff that went wrong there.
So, Stephen, the correct challenge. 10 seconds still available. My robot butler starting now.
It's a sort of oxymoron in a way, because robot is the Czech for slave or serf.
Shappi, your challenge.
I'm not sure if that was the right challenge, but I think you kind of hesitated too
No,
much.
there was hesitation,
There was
darling. It's all
hesitation.
right. And you've got 7 seconds on my robot butler starting now.
I'd take my robot butler on holiday, probably Barbados. I hear over there the care of robot butlers is second to none. In a way...
Very good.
So Shappi Khorsandi was speaking as the whistle went. Gained an extra point. She's moved forward, and she's equal with Stephen Fry and Paul Merton in second place, and they're all trailing Julian just by 3 points only. And Julian, we're back with you to begin. Cabin fever. Tell us something about cabin fever in this game, starting now.
I know when I was in the Navy and I checked into my cabin, they said, do you want the top bunk or the lower? I said, let me unpack first. And soon after, cabin fever struck me. Please, may I open the porthole, I cried. But request was denied. The next time I had cabin fever, I was on the poop deck, and there's someone breathing very noisily next to me. Very off-putting. And cabin fever spread like wildfire throughout the ship. People were falling left, right, and centre. Oh, I'm very, very faint.
Yes, we all spotted
Yes,
it.
repetition of very, sadly.
Very, very, yes. It was lovely, Julian, but unfortunately, Paul spotted the very first, so he's got the point, and he's got the subject. 24 seconds available. Cabin fever starting now.
When I had the job of delivering Abby Titmus's robot butler, I knocked on her door and she wasn't in her house, and I was advised to go to the end of the garden where she had locked herself into this meticulously built cabin. I inquired of the gardener who was there, why is she in this particular structure? She said, she is an artiste. She has a great following.
Shappi challenge.
She's not an artiste.
No, that's just the gardener saying that. I don't agree with that, but he's been paid by her, so he's a certain amount of loyalty.
So now I'm stuck as to whether or not I was correct or not.
She is an actress now. She's a bona fide actress,
Yeah.
could we just say?
Okay.
Can somebody tell me who she is? Because I've never heard There was a marvellous England spin bowler called Titmus. He's the only Titmus I've ever heard of. I didn't know there was a... Who is Abby Titmus?
She's an actress. She's got lovely milky skin.
She's beautiful, very nice skin.
She was with a well-known television presenter for a time, and that's
Right.
how she got well-known.
Okay.
I will say no more. And Shappi, he did say she 3 times.
He did say, well, that was my main point that I wanted to make. He said she 3 times, quite close together.
So as Paul's in the lead, and you haven't played the game as much as anybody
Will I
else.
get the benefit of the doubt?
Yes, you have. And you've got cabin fever with only 4 seconds to go, starting now.
I shared a hotel room in Paris with my mother this weekend, and cabin fever is what both of us got.
So Shappi Khorsandi was speaking as a whistle end, gained that extra point, and she has moved forward. She's equal with Stephen. 1 point behind Paul, 2 or 3 points behind Julian, who's still in the lead. And Stephen Fry, we'd like you to begin the next round, and the subject is lift etiquette. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Well, I suppose I'd better enunciate what we're all thinking, really, and that is don't let out any anal wind when you're in an elevator. It must be the first rule of lift etiquette. I think it's probably true also that one shouldn't stare at people. It's generally, especially if you're English, considered wise to look towards the ceiling. There's never a hatchway, as there is in thriller films, but in real life, lifts are rather dull places and people are embarrassed to be inside them.
Julian challenge.
Repetition of people.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's
yes,
true.
indeed. So we'll listen,
True
Julian.
story. Well done.
You're concentrating like...
He is, isn't he?
Yes.
He's really on fire.
Really?
Sorry, I don't mean you're really on fire.
Start the car, would you?
Right. Julian, you have a correct challenge, which is the most important thing. And you have lift etiquette and 34 seconds starting now.
Every time I get in a lift, I say, are you going down or shall I? Which seems to break the ice. And then we start chatting and generally a journey in...
Shappi challenge.
It's a bit hesitative. Is that a word, Stephen?
Hesitation, yeah.
Well, it is now.
No, he didn't actually hesitate. He didn't. He was teetering on it, but didn't get there. And so, Julian, incorrect challenge. You still have lift etiquette, 25 seconds starting now.
I enjoy going up and down in an elevator.
23, but Stephen, yes.
No, he went down before, if you
went
remember.
down.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, you have the subject of lift etiquette, 23 seconds available, starting now.
I was in one of the largest and longest lifts in London, Centre Point. There's a nightclub at the top there, and I got stuck one night. It was most embarrassing, about 5 of us in there. And I tweeted using a new social network thing called Twitter. And it rather caused a fuss. Everybody got excited about this thing because people and newspapers published it the next...
Stephen 5 is then speaking to us away. Gain that extra point. And the situation is, at the end of that round, he's moved forward. He's 1 ahead of Paul Merton, 2 ahead of Shappi, and he's trailing our leader, Julian, by 3 points. And whose turn is it to begin? Oh, Paul, we're back with you. Happy hour. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
There are many happy hours throughout the day. Perhaps one of the most earliest ones are...
Stephen,
I don't know, I just find it ugly to use a double superlative, one
Yeah.
of the most earliest.
I hadn't used the first one out.
It's not really, it's a sort of deviation. I mean, it isn't, to be perfectly honest. Shakespeare uses it in one of the most famous speeches in Julius Caesar, the most unkindest cut of all. But it somehow just isn't nice style, is it?
Yeah, but we're not bothered so much about
Good.
style.
That's
it's about
fine, then.
whether you can keep going without hesitating, repeating words
That's
and so forth.
perfectly all right,
so,
then.
Paul, you have 55 seconds. You still another point, of course. Happy hour starting now.
As the sun rises over the dew-kissed lawn and the rooftops of London glisten from the overnight rain, one can hear the earth, in fact, the very metropolis, rising from its slumber and greeting the brand new 24 hours that lie ahead. The happy hour is often referred to in cocktail bars or pubs where one is encouraged to become an alcoholic at half price. And this is a fantastic inducement for those people who can no longer afford the hard liquor of their childhood. I, for one, used to sup at my mother's knee. It wasn't very painful for her because she had a metallic one. And it was magnificent because I would see in the happy hour...
Stephen,
There were
challenge.
2 becauses there.
Yeah, 2
It wasn't
becauses, yeah.
painful because and because.
So, Stephen, you have a correct challenge. And you have 12 seconds. The happy hour starting now.
Well, I would endorse everything that Paul Merton just said, really. It does seem a rather cheap advertising gimmick and a way of getting young people drunk cheaply and early.
Shappi challenge.
Cheap and cheaply, they're not the same words.
No.
So, well, good job I didn't
One's
interrupt you
an
then.
adjective.
That would have been well embarrassing.
You did. You did interrupt him, so it's an incorrect challenge.
Sorry.
He gets another... No, don't apologise to me, darling. Apologise to the others, because he gets another point, Stephen does. And he has 4 seconds. The happy hour starting now.
I believe some of the legislature are rather...
Julian challenge.
Repetition of believe.
Yes, you did say I believe before,
It's
yes.
awfully good. I don't know, but I mean, it's so convincing.
I thought you probably
I
did.
probably did. I probably said rather, and I probably said people. You're very good at this, aren't you?
Calm
Right.
yourself.
All right.
Julian, correct challenge, another point to you. And you have 3 seconds only on happy hour starting now.
Every hour is happy hour round at my place. Gin and tonics for all.
So Julian Clary was then speaking to whistle away and gained an extra point. And he has increased his lead at the end of the round. That little tinkle tells me something.
We want the nurse back.
No, it is actually telling us that we have time for only 1 more round. Oh, Julian, we're back with you to begin. The subject, Elvis. Tell us something about Elvis in this game, starting now.
I started my career as an Elvis impersonator. In the Ghetto was my showstopper, and people would come from miles around to watch me quivering my lips and shaking the hips in a very Elvis fashion. There are some footages on YouTube which people admire, and there are conventions which I turn up to in disguise as Elvis. And frankly, that's all I've got to say on the matter.
So, Paul, you got in there first.
Came to an elegant stop.
And then, so we call that hesitation. Paul, you have the subject of Elvis. There are 33 seconds available, starting now. Julian.
Repetition.
That's Elvis Presley. That's not my fault.
He was a bit more distinct than that, I think.
Was he?
Well, not
How
towards
did he sound to you?
Well, I can't get under
You knew him better than I did.
So, Julian, we get the benefit of the doubt to you, and it is Elvis still with you. 31 seconds starting now.
People loved my Jailhouse Rock, which wasn't particularly correct in the
Shappi challenge.
Is it a bit
Yes, a little bit of
hesitating?
hesitation.
Sorry.
So you're catching up rapidly on them now, Shappi. And 28 seconds still available. Elvis starting now.
We hear a lot about the food Elvis liked to eat towards the end of his life, and a lot of people were appalled by it. However, I'm quite intrigued by this thing he used to have of an entire loaf of bread hollowed out with bacon in it and loads of cheese and grilled. I think that sounds delicious. It's a real shame that it's unhealthy, but I'd like an Elvis cookbook, because I think a lot of the stuff that he had would be...
Julian challenge.
Oh, I'm afraid you hesitated.
I was starting to feel fat as well as I was talking about it, so I'm glad of that.
But you were interrupted with only 3 minutes to go.
3 minutes?
Oh, great.
Time is going backwards. He's turned back time.
Now, I'll say anything to get a round of applause.
Hello, I'm your new milkman. He says that sometimes.
Julian, you got in actually with 3 seconds to go. But it's correct, those are the rules of the game. And you have another point. You have Elvis back with you. 3 seconds starting now.
I am still often mistaken for Elvis. I can't set foot in America.
Paul challenge.
Well, that's no compliment. He's been dead 30 years. Although now you say it, I can see what you mean.
Paul, I give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption, but I don't know whether it's a legitimate challenge because there's only half a second to go, so what I'll do is give you both a point, all right? One to Paul Merton, one to Julian Clary, and that's the end of that round. So it remains for me to give you the final score. And Shappi did very well. She came in a brilliant 4th place. But no, it was very, very good. Only a few points behind Stephen Fry, who was in a very strong 3rd place. And 1 point ahead was Paul Merton, but 3 points ahead of him was Julian Clary. So we say, Julian, you are our winner today. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine pairs today. So from this delightful audience here in the Television Centre, and from me, Nicholas Parsons, and this wonderful team, we say goodbye, thank you, and join us again the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes.
The week's news is about to get a bashing with Sandy Toksvig, Andy Hamilton, Jeremy Hardy, Miles Jupp and Rick Wakeman. The news quiz starting now on Radio 4. Or stay with BBC 2 for Eggheads next.